saying na, may disclaimer, alam namin yan. Yung iba hindi namin napanood, pero kung totoo yan, kasi may transcript, parang wala kayong responsibilidad dun sa mga angkor nyo. Ang feeling ko is, kahit kung ano mang sabihin ng mga anchors nyo, and even those resource persons invited by your anchormen and women, parang wala. Wala kayong disiplina sa mga tao nyo. At ang malinaw dyan, hindi talaga, ako offhand, hindi yan papasa sa Code of Ethics and Standards. But of course, pwede naman mag-file ng libel, di ba? Pwede naman, ang option dyan is, ng individual na nagreklamo is to file proper court. But, of course, we have agencies of government that should regulate. Kaya nga may NTC, may MTRCB, may KBP. Unfortunately, you disassociate your membership with KBP. Pero punta ko mamaya ang KBP. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Kasi walang, ang laging puntong nire-raise ng mga members nila, especially those being tagged, red tag. Ngayon, special rapporteur. Yun yung tira sa special rapporteur. Ang sagot nyo, parang wala. Okay lang. Kasi may disclaimer. Kasi right yan ang anchor. Pwede ba yun? Diba? Anyway, Mr. Chairman, yun nga sabi ko, nasa NTC yan. No? Pa-check natin sa NTC with regards to actions that should be taken. Kung may mga agencies na kailangan dyan involve natin. Para tapos ang now cases that should be filed, bala, anyway, franchise ang pinag-usapan natin dito. Pero sa totoo lang, after the franchise, just in case, it will be revoked, may other platform pa. Diba? And now, kung walang airing doon sa station, sa mga radio stations, nandiyan pa rin yung platform in which the government, whatever agency is concerned, dapat gumawa ng paraan. Gumawa ng hakbang. Hindi pwede hanggang wala. Parang walang magawa ang gobyerno sa SMNI. Kasi SMNI lang naman ang sa ngayon Ang ganyan yung conduct. Other radio stations, other TV stations, kahit yung mga established na matagal ng radio station, sinusundan nga nila yung Code of Ethics. Pero SMNI wala. Anyway, yun lang yun po sa akin. Kaya NTC, please submit the requested document before the next hearing. Kasi hindi pa naman to last Now, Chairman, may I ask the KBP? KBP, though, wala na, hindi na member yung SMNI with the KBP. But yung complaint against SMNI previously, ano yung updates doon?
Mr. Chair, insofar as the complaint filed against SMNI for acts that were allegedly committed while they were a member, KBP could take cognizance. However, since there is a pending case involving the same issues in other courts, procedurally KBP suspends its hearing to give way to the courts or government agencies to conduct their own investigation, because we are self-regulation and the courts of law are above us, Your Honors.
Yeah, correct. But you have your mandate. Now there is a pending case outside, but there's a complaint also.
Yes, Your Honor. That's why I was explaining our procedure, that we suspend hearing because there is a pending case involving the same issues in a court with jurisdiction.
Who filed?
We were informed
You were informed.
No,
You don't have the document?
Your Honors, that was information given in this committee. Yung pending cases against SMNI,
Is Attorney Domingo is present? Wala. Hindi, kasi Mr. Chairman, ako, I will not decide for my vote with regards to the revocation on the House bill filed by Congressman Rodriguez unless malinaw talagang basis. Na for example, NTC medyo malinaw na yan, pero wala pang finality. Now, KBP, I'm waiting for your final decision with regards to the case o complaint filed against SMNI para magamit namin dito. Alam mo niyo, yung regular court now. Mr. Chairman, in the next hearing, we will invite Mr. Domingo para malinaw. Kasi, ano ba yan? Forum shopping ang case. And I will check also KBP. I will also check with the legal department in the House if there is a legal impediment with regards to that. Kasi pag walang legal impediment, that it will not be a forum shopping, you better check with your legal also. Para pag nagkita-kita tayo dito next hearing, di ka magka-problema. Baka mamaya ang opinion ng legal dito sa House is different from what you have said.
yes, Mr. Chair, we note that and we'll take cognizance.
Thank you. Chairman, next. Last na, Chairman. Yung sa MTRCB, nandito ba sila? MTRCB, what is now the update of the case or the complaint?
The complaint po against the two TV, sorry, sir, if I may, Your Honors, the complaints regarding the two TV programs po, gikan sa masa, para sa masa and laban kasama ang bayan, we've already decided on it. We have the decision was for 28 day suspension, including the preventive suspension. SMNI filed a notice of appeal, so we are going to transmit the records of the case to the Office of the President's Appeals Committee now.
So, 28 days suspension,
Yes, Your Honor.
1 month. Anyway, Mr. Chairman, can we direct the MTRCB to submit the copies of that complaint and at the same time the decision of the MTRCB?
Yes, Your Honor. We will.
Para lang po makita namin if indeed there is a basis for the revocation of the franchise. Kasi kailang patas tayo dito.
Yes, sir, or Your Honor, if I may, one of the findings of the board or the committee, Your Honor, is that there was a violation of Section 3 C of our mandate, which is in connection with Section 4 of the franchise. We call this the legislative franchise, Your Honor. So it is one of our bases, Your Honor, also is the Section 4 franchise responsibility of SMNI.
Okay, so SMNI appeal to the 28 days suspension.
Yes, Your Honor, it is already with the Office of the President.
When was that? Submitted to the Office of the President.
They submitted their notice to appeal, Your Honor, last February 1, Your Honor. And we are in the process of transmitting the records of the case to the Office of the President.
Pero notice pa lang yun.
Yes, Your Honor. But
Anyway, let it be. Just submit those documents available with regards to the complaint and the decision of the MTRCB. Para makita lang po namin, lalo na yung you mentioned about the violation of your decision with regards to the violation of the provisions of the franchise.
yes, Your Honor, we will.
Thank you.
The Honorable Paduano. Now the chair recognizes the Honorable Paul Dasa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I came this afternoon having read in our schedule 4 items that my understanding is being taken up together in the committee. These are all serious resolutions condemning fake news and revoking a legislative franchise. And that's why I came. And I want to make sure that whatever vote I put in is an informed one. I wanted to give SMNI all the opportunity to give us reasons not to support revoking a franchise, because the last thing I'd like to see are for officers, employees, families to be affected and lose their employment, just like what happened with ABS-CBN. But I'm having a hard time accepting some of the responses from the representatives of the SMNI. But just to clarify, I understand, I think Attorney Tolentino, Mr. Chair, said that if anchors are doing things wrong, there's always, you can always address those issues by filing civil and criminal cases. So and I understand that that goes for any industry. We all have a right to file civil, criminal cases, and I don't think that's a sufficient response. Does SMNI have, just like other media outlets that I think they have, which are internal guidelines to discipline, let's say, talent? Because I know on TV, if a talent, let's say, says something that's really, unacceptable, they'll discipline a talent. Do you have any standards or guidelines for your own people?
Can I respond that, Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest that we submitted with the committee the TV and radio manual of operation, Mr. Chair. So we have a guidelines, Mr. Chair.
No, specifically, Mr. Chair, if a anchor says something that just we all, 100% of the population agree is wrong. Let's say an anchor says, raping na lang ninyo yan, di ba? Okay? So, without somebody filing a case or complaining to you, how would you pick that up and how would you discipline that talent?
Mr. Chair, we have an editorial board, Mr. Chair. And for details, Mr. Chair, the operation manager of SMNI can explain that in details.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the Honorable Congressman po na example is, of course, that's, kung meron pong nagsabi ng sinabi nyo na rapin na lang yan, hindi po yun uubra sa editorial policy ng SMNI, at sigurado po na kung hindi lang mapapatawag ay matatanggal po kung ganun po ang bigat po ng sinabi.
But how would, if let's say no one complained to you, how would you know one of your talent said something like that? Because kanina tinanong po kayo, I think 2 or 3 members asked you about certain statements that were, I personally felt wrong on red tagging, but none of you denied knowing those statements were made, so nothing was ever done. So how do you actually monitor? Because you apparently don't monitor your own shows and your own talent.
Your Honor, if I may. Every afternoon program po, Your Honor, may mga report na ginagawa yung mga producers namin and assessment po. In regards sa problema po, dun sa may mga issues po or nilabag po yung mga anchors po namin, meron po yung team po namin na nagmo-monitor, and maliban pa dun sa assessment na binibigay ng mga producers po, papatawag po sila po.
So, Mr. Chair, then I would assume yung mga pinakita kanina, mga sinabi, at the judgment of your editors, hindi rin report yun kasi parang okay lang. Is that correct?
With regards po, sir, kung comment lang po ang sinabi, komento po ng ating mga anchors po, merong certain gauge na ginagawa yung editorial policy po namin. Kung ito ay komento lang po ba, or kasi gaya po na sinasabi po namin, kung ano po yung komento ng mga anchors po namin, hindi po yung stand ng company. So kung meron po siyang sasagutin po, yung mga anchors po namin, siya po magiging liable po sa mga sinasabi po niya. Your Honor, I'd like to clarify po. Iba po yung stand po, ay iba po yung pinapatakaran po natin kung ito po ay news program or kung ito po ay commentary ng mga programa. Kasi sa news po, hindi po pwede mag-comment po ang ating yung ating mga reporters. Iba po ang stand po natin dyan. But in terms po sa mga program katulad ng Laban Kasama ang Bayan, Pulso ng Bayan, commentary po ang mga programang ito, Your Honor. And may free hand po yung ating mga anchors po na magbigay ng komento kung ano po yung pinag-uusapan po nila. And yung komento po nila ay ito po ay personal opinion po ng mga anchors po namin. At ulitin, kaya po sinasabi po namin, kaya po kami may disclaimer dahil kung ano man po ang opinion ng aming mga anchors, hindi po ito personal stand ng network po.
Okay, fair enough, Mr. Chair. So may I ask, since you've been operational, I think it's 2-3 years, has there ever been a sanction or a penalty given to any talent that has a show?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
Congressman,
please proceed.
meron pong, number one, I just want to put on record that immediately after we received the cease and desist order from the National Telecommunications Commission, we have never violated transmission on digital channel 43 and all other format under the supervision of the National Telecommunications Commission. Now, going back to the question of Congressman Paul, Mr. Chairman, we have, as a matter of fact, in the case of Mr. Eric Celis, when he admitted, we conducted an internal investigation. However, the internal investigation was preempted when he appeared before this committee and admitted or uttered a statement that in effect is an admission of a violation. So we immediately imposed the maximum sanction provided for under the Manual of Operations of the Suarasug Media Corporation, Mr. Chair.
So,
Which ones? Can you, which was, what was the,
Which was suspension, Mr.
how long?
10 days, Mr. Chairman.
and Mr. Chair,
Maximum yan, 10 days. Maximum penalty para 10 days. Go ahead.
and that's the maximum?
No, Mr. Chairman, yes, over the last several days, we have amended some portions of our manual for disciplining employees. And we have imposed a varying sanctions with the maximum of expulsion or termination of services.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Sonsa.
So, okay.
Dasa, you still have
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, thank you for sharing that information. That helps this particular representation balance things. So I'm curious, was that sanction done before or after the video showed by the Honorable Raul Manuel?
With respect to the video presented by the Honorable Manuel, Mr. Chairman, I'm not quite certain whether this video were called from the social media platform because, as I said in the beginning, from the time we received the suspension order and the CDO, we ceased to transmit any broadcast on the regulated transmission platform as provided for in the franchise of the Suarasug Media Corporation, Mr. Chairman.
To clarify, so that video was done on a personal basis?
No, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I wish the Honorable Manuel can clarify where he called that video, whether that was from a broadcast through free to air or from the social media platform.
Sige, Mr. Chair, can we have Honorable Manuel clarify on that?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, the video was posted in the online accounts of SMNI on January 9, 2024.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So it appears now it was still in compliance with the MTC. We did not air it on transmitted platform on free to air. It was on social media platform.
So was it before or after your sanction, your 10-day suspension?
After.
It was done after the 10-day suspension. So something like that, may I ask, what would your plans be? You sanctioned him 10 days, and then you saw the video. What action can the company now take?
The sanction refers to free to air. The sanction, the social media kasi, hindi po namin pwedeng sagkain yung mga personal na nila, na pronouncement nila.
Pero Mr. Chair, talent po ninyo kasi after the 10-day suspension, you're paying him again.
No, we're not airing, Mr. Chairman.
No, my question was not airing. My question is, what positive action will you take after you spend, I think, is he an employee? How do you call him? A contractual, talent, or whatever?
He's a talent, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry?
He's a talent.
Talent. Okay. So he has some sort of financial relationship with the company. You have supervision with that talent. You suspended it for 10 days. You were suspended by NTC, and then you see a video like that. That's, I mean, I'm in the minority. I'm not here to defend the speaker, but having seen what Congressman Manuel showed in the video, I think it hurts the institution, not just the speaker. I'm defending the institution. So my question is not whether you're going to air it. So what sanction would you take now? Because it's germane to the issue whether you deserve to be revoked or not. So it's a management decision. Do you deserve to continue your franchise? It's not a hard question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As a matter of fact, after I saw the video that was presented by the Honorable Manuel, I have called the attention of the chair of the editorial board. If it warrants, we will conduct another investigation and impose the necessary amended sanction as may be required.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. But it also highlights the fact that you're not really able to monitor your talent, because it should not have taken a committee hearing to get a statement like that. Correct, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, as I said earlier, when matters does not, kung halimbawa po yung airing niya ay nagkataon sa Channel 43, which is under the supervision of the National Telecommunications and pursuant to the franchise issued by the Honorable House, we will certainly take cognizance immediately. But since this is a social media platform,
January 24.
wala po kaming wala po.
Huh?
Ang recommend nga po ng aming law department at mga legal is kung may complainant, filean po ng kaso sila at papapanagutin po namin sila sa batas.
Sige, Mr. Chair. Fair enough. That episode was January 9th. To this particular member of the House, it's crystal clear to me that you need to have better monitoring and guidelines in disciplining your talent. Okay? I'll leave it at that because I have more questions.
For that, Mr. Chair,
Sige, Mr. Chair, I'll allow Attorney Tolentino to respond to that.
that January 2024 program, Mr. Chair, is just a form of a question. It's not a statement again, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
It was a question, Mr. Chair, not a statement. I forgot, Mr. Chair, but it's a form of a question, Mr. Chair, not
Mr. Chair.
a statement. And granting it as a statement, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
granting
I'll
it's a
handle it.
statement, that is a personal opinion.
Well,
Mr. Chair, okay, no,
Are we referring to the same video?
yes,
Because
Mr. Chair,
I didn't
anyway,
see any question there.
Mr. Chair, I have the floor. You're entitled to your opinion, and the fact that you had to say that, instead of, I wanted an opportunity for me to help SMNI. Now, with that statement, it just irks me. Instead of getting a no vote on revoking the franchise, you're defending it by saying it, nagpapalusot. You didn't have to do that, di ba? I don't think you're doing a good service as to this particular issue for SMNI. Whether it was in a formal statement, you're defending it, di ba? Anyway,
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
That's clear.
yeah, because I don't know if we're voting today or it's going to be more hearings. It hurts me when people lose work. And I'm trying to find reasons not to support this particular House Bill 9710, but they're not helping. Anyway, let me move forward. I wanted clarity from any of the resource persons because I wanted to continue the line of Congresswoman Brosas, Chairman Paduano. I was somewhat surprised when NTC said that they can, let's say, shut down a website or whatever it is online, provided there's a determination from a law enforcement agency. So my question is, if let's say there's a website or a social media account that's advocating violence, or some sort of an account or site advocating drugs, di ba? Do you actually have to wait? Do you have the power to immediately make a decision? Kunyari, may website selling drugs, di ba? I think all of us will agree that's not acceptable. Would you have to wait for the PNP or the NBI to make a determination for you to shut down that website? Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if ever there is such thing, what we can do is we can take cognizance of such an activity online, and we would deem it more appropriate to refer it to appropriate agencies to determine such the actions being shown online. We'll take cognizance of it, Mr. Chair, and bring it to the attention of appropriate agencies who may be able to evaluate it more thoroughly before we take action.
Okay, so meaning, Mr. Chair, NTC, motu proprio, cannot shut down anything online, correct? You would have to refer to someone else.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if we are to go back po kasi dun sa mandate ng NTC, the mandate
I understand. It's a yes or a no. So am I correct?
at this right now, Your Honor, we are unable to
Okay. Are there any government agencies that have the power to do that in their mandate? So let's say porn sites, trafficking sites, drug sites, ang dami po niyan eh. I've been told that many of the sites, social media accounts are being closed. So who's doing that?
Specific to your example, Your Honor, on say porn sites or similar sites like that. In this particular case, there's a say the OSAIC, no? Online sexual exploitation and abuse. These are basis. These are these are laws that provide guidelines that these are illegal or unauthorized. So there are bases for us to take action on that once the appropriate agencies are able to determine such violations taking place online. Same is true like with also like this.
Okay, so on certain, so it's criminal activity specific. If there are certain laws that enable you to do that, like trafficking or sexual, what did you say? Sexual
Online sexual abuse and
abuse,
exploitation. That's
you can on your own shut them down.
that is upon the determination of the appropriate agency enforcing the law,
Aren.
Mr. Chair. Opo.
Does DICT have the power also to shut down certain online sites?
In this instances, Mr. Chair, it was the NTC. It was coursed through the
So
NTC.
NTC. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Mr. Chair, I came a little late. I saw on the resource person list, SEC. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, can I ask the SEC, because I remember in previous hearings, there were allegations of charter violations, franchise violations, corporate. So can the SEC share any findings they've had since then?
Mr. Chair, based on the records that we submitted to the Honorable Committee, the SEC found that there were some violations for failure to comply with the reportorial requirements. And this is the main mandate of the SEC in regards or as regards the regulation of existing corporation. And our records also show that we have already penalized the corporation for these findings of violation, Mr. Chair.
Well, okay. I mean, a lot of corporations do that and you just penalize them and they pay the penalty. So there's nothing more serious that's been uncovered by SEC other than late filing of mandatory reports.
So far, Mr. Chair, that is the case with the subject corporation, Mr. Chair.
Okay. For the MTRCB, let's say the complaint was found, it was final, executory, the complaint was valid. What steps can MTRCB do? The Honorable Paduano asked, and it's been appealed, but let's just say that there was a final decision, let's say, against, what can MTRCB do?
If there is a complaint, Your Honor, we refer it to our adjudication and hearing committee. But if we already have a decision, Your Honor, final and executory, Honor, we our monitoring and inspection unit monitors the said TV program or movie from showing or yes, Your Honor, from showing. But we actually just sorry, Your Honor, we just actually found out that we can actually if there is a final and executory decision, we can actually endorse it to the NTC to help us in assisting us in the implementation of the cancellation of said movie or TV program in all media platforms.
Oh, okay. And so you would be considered a law enforcement agency that could make the final determination. So NTC can now do what needs to be done. Okay, my last question, Mr. Chair. Would the NTC or any of the resource persons know other than ABS-CBN, which was different. ABS, their franchise expired and was not renewed. In this case, for this particular House Bill 9710, it's an existing franchise, and the House bill is advocating for revocation. In the history of our country, has there ever been any legislative franchise for radio TV that has been revoked? Would you have that historical record? Or anyone, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, may I reply? Based on the records of the KBP since its inception in 1974 and the start of the issuance of legislative franchise, there is no incidence of Congress revoking a franchise. As correctly pointed out, Your Honor, the case of ABS-CBN referred to non-renewal.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chair, can I ask KBP, would you be aware of any, let's say, outside the Philippines, other countries? And what would be the standard? What would be sufficient justification? Are there any international good practices that we can share to guide members on whether to support or not this particular bill?
I may stand corrected on this, Your Honor. But the regulatory environment in different jurisdictions is different from the Philippines, where a legislative franchise is a condition for the issuance of a broadcast license. In fact, that was the situation in the Philippines pre-martial law, where the Broadcast Media Council were issuing broadcast licenses to operate radio and television stations. It was only post-martial law where the legislative franchise was required for a franchisee to be able to get a permit from the NTC. In the United States, the regime is different. The radio and television licenses are issued by the FCC, but there's no requirement for a legislative franchise. That is also, to my recall, Your Honors, that is also true in other countries in Asia, that a legislative franchise is not required.
Are there any countries, Mr. Chair, that's similar to the Philippines that requires a congressional franchise?
Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any, Your Honors.
Okay, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing that information. Would the NTC know? Has there ever been a similar franchise that's been revoked?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To our knowledge as well, we are not aware of any franchise that has been revoked up to this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Last one, Mr. Chair. I wanted to give Attorney Tolentino an opportunity from one lawyer to another. We learned in law school that free speech is not really free. There's a limit to it. I'm sure Attorney Supico knows that. But the classic case, Mr. Chair, is you cannot shout in a crowded movie house, there's a fire, if there's no fire. Just like if I shouted right now, there's a bomb in the room, knowing that there's no bomb, that's not covered by free speech. So I'm curious, Mr. Chair, to give you an opportunity, whether it's your personal or company position, where do you draw the line?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest a Supreme Court jurisprudence about legislative franchise and also in relation to a freedom of press and freedom of expression. This is not my personal opinion, but this is based on a Supreme Court jurisprudence approved by the Supreme Court last 2021. The Supreme Court said that a franchise constitutes a property right. which cannot be arbitrarily revoked or forfeited without compliance with the due process law. It means a franchise cannot be revoked or forfeited without undergoing procedure of due process, which must be observed, which necessitates notice and hearing conducted through a court trial. So not a legislative investigation, because legislative investigation is only in aid of legislation. And second, Mr. Chair, it states that the determination of the right to exercise of a franchise, whether or not to enjoy the privilege to be forfeited, shall be subject to a quo warranto proceeding in a regular court, Mr. Chair. And this is a Supreme Court jurisprudence that we believe is a proper way, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'm winding down, Mr. Chair. Thank you for sharing that. I'm happy to hear that, because I think the House, this committee, has had at least 3 or 4 hearings. So in terms of due process, and I don't think that that particular Supreme Court case is really on point, because we do have the power to issue. We have the power to issue a franchise, and at the same token, we have the power to revoke. So I don't agree with that case that it has to go through the courts, but I do agree that the concept or the principle of due process is always important, and I'm happy that this committee has heard this particular issues multiple times, which I think complies with anyone's requirement on due process. But my question was, because you continue to defend your talent despite, hearing from the members, and you said earlier they have the right to file civil criminal cases. I asked about internal regulations on how you discipline talent employees. And I asked, so where do you draw the line? Obviously, Mr. Chair, if a talent says, let's burn down a Jewish temple, I don't think all of us will not be in agreement with that. That would cross the line. So how, as counsel for the company, what are your thoughts on that? I wanted to give you an opportunity, because I have to be honest, Mr. Chair, I'm looking for defenses for you guys, but you didn't do a good job doing that. So I wanted to give you one opportunity, and that was my last question, Mr. Chair.
So when I say due process, Mr. Chair, it is one of the constitutional rights guaranteed under our Philippine Constitution. Yes, we agree with Congressman Daza that is not absolute. There are certain limitations. But granting that there is limitation, there is a latest jurisprudence of the Supreme Court that in case any rulings, decisions of any government agency that affects constitution, the freedom of press and freedom of expression, there is a presumption that that government agency's ruling and decision is unconstitutional. It means the Supreme Court emphasized that the freedom of press and freedom of expression is one of the highest constitutional rights guaranteed under the Philippine Constitution. It means the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines guarantees more protection, more right with respect to the freedom of press and freedom of expression. Yes, sometimes there are irregularities, there are inaccuracy committed by the anchors of the SMNI. But granting those are inaccurate, granting that those are not 100% correct, still covered by the freedom of press and freedom of expression guaranteed by the Philippine Constitution. So therefore, Mr. Chair, in case there are violations by the anchors, there are other options like filing a case, but not to affect or to revoke the franchise, because a franchise granted by the Philippine government is already a proprietary right protected by the due process clause of the Philippine Constitution.
Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mark Tolentino,
Thank you for the time given
maraming
me.
salamat, the Honorable Dasa.
And Mr. Chair, this is not my opinion, Mr. Chair.
Well,
I'm just reading the
well, it is-
jurisprudence of the Philippine Supreme Court,
Well,
Mr.
I
Chair.
think that is your opinion based on what you are reading. If you only nitpick on certain, because first of all, we even don't know what case are you referring
Can I
to.
read the decision, Mr. Chair?
You can just give us a copy because we will definitely, we cannot ask, I don't believe that the Supreme Court will go into
GR
legislative.
number
Excuse me, Attorney Tolentino, you are not yet
Sorry,
recognized.
Mr. Chair.
Again, please, makikiusap po ko.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sabi ko, just give us a copy and we will study the points that you have raised. But be rest assured that this is definitely within the right of the committee to grant, amend, repeal, and revoke. At least, klaro po tayo dyan. And if you think that we're in violation of that, then you also have the right to go to the court if you want to. Like you have been asking everyone to go to court against your station and to your talents.
Thank you,
And I
Attorney
like
Chair.
the smile of the Attorney Rolex Suplico. It's a very nice smile. Okay, and he is, thank you. Anyway, klaro po tayo dyan. Side nyo na, kasi ano po nyo, magbabasa ho tayo ng pira-pirasong desisyon, hindi ho natin alam ang konteksto nung inyong sinasabi. So, and I know that, the Supreme Court will not, malaki po ang paggalang po natin sa kanila at malaki naman po ang paggalang nila sa legislatura.
Thank you,
At
Mr.
hindi
Chair.
po sila sasaklaw sa kapangyarihan ng legislature. So maraming salamat. Donor, Attorney Caraps, Congressman Caraps, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Anyway, that's the opinion position of attorney. But ito lang, attorney. Section 15 of your franchise. And binigay niya sa inyo yung frankisa at nobody question about it. You review Section 15.
Here.
Oh, now you're telling us is as if that you're telling us that we don't have the powers and authority to approve and revoke franchise. Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung powers. Yung frankisa nyo mismo, Section 15.
Can I make a manifestation, Mr. Chair?
Hindi.
Please read, I think there's a
Section
Section 15.
basahin mo.
Okay,
Section
Mr. Chair.
15.
Okay.
Oh,
This-
para marinig ng lahat.
This franchise shall be subject to amendment, alteration, repeal by the Congress of the Philippines when the public interest so requires, and shall not be interpreted as an exclusive grant of privileges herein provided.
Ano yan? So,
That is the law, Mr. Chair. And of course, there's also jurisprudence about that, Mr. Chair.
what jurisprudence ano yung sinasabi mo?
GR number 196199.
Sandali. Kasi tinanggap nitong prangkisa na to that we have the right to repeal, amend, and now you're telling us na para wala kaming karapatan.
With
Ay,
all
tinanggap niyo yung prangkisa niyo. Now we want it to amend, to repeal, or to revoke. And we have that authority based on your franchise as a law.
with all due respect, Mr. Chair, although I respect the congressman from Iloilo, Mr. Chair, it says from Negros, Mr. Chair, it says here, Mr.
He's
Chair,
not from Iloilo. He's
when
not from
public
Iloilo.
interest so requires.
Yeah.
So who determines when the public interest so requires? So the jurisprudence, Mr. Chair.
Of course, Congress, because we are given the authority. And we only need to give you due process. And what we're doing now is the due process. To amend, to repeal, or to revoke the franchise.
Mr. Chair.
I respect the opinion of the good congressman, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. But still, the power of the Congress is subject to judicial review, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So thank you very much, Attorney Mark Tolentino.
Mr. Chair.
Hindi po tayo matapos dyan.
Mr. Chair.
Dahil kasi kung si Attorney Suplico, dito na ko po, kontrahin ka dyan.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
yun nga gusto
Di-
ko sabihin eh.
Attorney, hindi
Baka pwedeng pagsalitain si dating congressman, Suplico,
At nagtataas ang kamay. Bakit di nyo pagsalitain, Mr. Chair?
Oh.
I just wanted to add something to what Congressman Dasa said. That I remember a case in Political Law 1 that's taken up during the first year of law proper. My professor was Justice Mendoza. He said that there was a case in the US that a dirty finger, when held in relation to the Vietnam War, is protected speech. That guy, that the members of the Makayan Blacks trying to stop from talking, came from the ranks, and he has a mission to uncover them. That's what he said. So there's a political reason for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, the Honorable Karaps, you've stated your point. There's
Mr.
also
Chair.
another speaker. There's another interpreter.
About lang dun, Mr. Chair, sa
Yes.
question daw
Opo.
na sinasabi. Oo. Mr. Chair, if kaya pong mai-flash po ulit yung ni-refer po kanina. Kasi Mr. Chair, pangalawang beses na rin pong narinig natin na yung mga sinasabi ng SMNI na hindi tama ay dapat lang daw palampasin kasi question. Mr. Chair, I did not imagine na dito sa Kongreso kailangan pa nating mag-lecture or magpataas ng reading comprehension skills ng ating mga resource person, Mr. Chair. Parang patunay nga talaga na may education crisis sa bansa, Mr. Chair. Kasi tingnan ba naman natin, Mr. Chair, ang subject po ng tanong na yan ang involvement ng Pangulo. Pero Mr. Chair, yung pangre-red tag sa speaker, hindi po siya naka-phrase na tanong, Mr. Chair. Kaya malinaw talaga na oo, Mr. Chair, tingnan ba naman natin yung salita, 'di ba? Na ang speaker daw ay kasabwat ng triumvirate na 'yan. So Mr. Chair, hindi po pwede na yung fake news o yung red tagging ay kinokloak natin siya as commentary or as question. Kaya Mr. Chair, ang mga media na hindi kaya mag-distinguish what is fact and what is opinion, ano yung commentary at ano yung hindi, actually Mr. Chair, delikado sa lipunan natin. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Manuel. The Honorable for the last interpreter, the Honorable Gutierrez.
Thank you very
Proponent
much.
of the House Bill 9710.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before beginning my interpellation, I simply want to express my appreciation for the means by which the Honorable Dasa has approached this hearing today. And I think this is the approach that every one member here should take, that they consider all angles of this far-reaching bill that I am proposing. But unlike the other members in this committee here today, I have already made my assessment of the situation. That is why I filed this bill. Mr. Chair, I came to this committee hearing today on the basis I filed this bill on the basis of our previous deliberations. We've already seen, in my opinion, clear facts that they have violated what I categorize as two kinds of violations. On Section 4 and 7 of their franchise regarding fake news and such, red tagging. On the corporate transgressions for their failure to report sale transfer of controlling interest under Section 10, failure to abide by the dispersal requirement under Section 11, both of which, by the way, have ipso facto revocation provisions. And of course, Section 12, for their failure to follow reportorial requirements. I came here today with this committee, with this bill, expecting a tackling mostly on the legal portions. But I'm surprised to see now, Mr. Chair, based on the interpellation of Congresswoman Castro, Congressman Manuel, Congresswoman Brosas, that still they continue to violate Section 4 and 7. Still, nakikita po natin, tuloy pa rin po yung kanilang mga ganitong programa online, despite numerous attempts to fix that in the deliberations. And I am similarly irked by the statements made today by our resource persons. Before I go into the meat of the bill that I have proposed, to really thresh out and hopefully persuade my fellow members here to vote yes on this bill, I would like to give the opportunity to our resource persons. I guess I will go backwards now, so that it's still fresh in our memory. Maybe ask Mr. Chair, Attorney Tolentino, while I think we have agreed that Congress has the power, I am very curious as to the jurisprudence he is citing here today. Mr. Chair, may we ask the good attorney, what particular, not the GR number, what is the case title po?
Attorney Tolentino, case title po.
The case title, Mr. Chair, is Manila International Port Terminal versus Philippine Port Authority, GR number 196199, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, regarding that, which is the law regarding franchises that they are challenging? What is the action for po?
Again, Mr. Chair.
The facts of the case, the antecedents. What happened in this case? What are they arguing against? Anong franchise po ang binigay sa Ports Authority?
That is with respect to the... It's about the Ports Authority, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair, anong nangyari po?
But this jurisprudence talks about franchise in general.
Mr. Chair, may I just clarify? I want to know the antecedents of the case. The antecedent facts. Ano po yung violation ng Ports Authority, ng Manila International, yung complainants? Manila Ports.
It's about
What?
Manila Port Authority, Mr. Chair. I
Ano
can
yung-
explain in details. I will give the complete copy of the decision, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
So-
this is my problem. My problem with the legal counsel that SMNI has selected is that they tend to nitpick and choose portions which they would now claim. It goes the same with SMNI News. They will choose portions to cite as truth that matters. But when you go into the whole picture, he can't even tell us the facts of the case. Mr. Chair, because I'm confident the Supreme Court will never say that Congress cannot repeal franchises. Alam ko yan. Alam ko yan sa law school. To now cite a case which I'm pretty sure Philippine Ports Authority, this is an executive agency exercising regulatory powers over that industry. It cannot be compared to a legislative franchise granted by Congress under the Constitution. Mr. Chair, I take exception to all of these manners of fake news, fake sources. Mr. Chair, I am honestly fed up. I wish to cite this as an example. He is citing jurisprudence which he has not understood fully. Mr. Chair, very simple. What are the facts of the case? What is the transgression of Manila Ports? What is the action of the Philippine Ports Authority? How is that related to legislative franchises? I'm pretty sure, Mr. Chair, the Supreme Court here cited legislative franchises only to say that an executive agency cannot act on its own on transgressions such as that. But never does it say that the Congress cannot repeal franchises. Can you cite, Mr. Chair?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
What can Congress is there a particular provision in that jurisprudence that says Congress cannot repeal franchises?
Okay, it says here, Mr. Chair.
No, the question is yes or no. Muna,
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes.
does it say there that Congress cannot?
The Congress can amend, but subject to the due process clause of the Philippine
Alright.
Constitution.
Mr. Chair, may we hear the
Okay.
provision? Sige,
Oh, yes.
Cite-
Okay, can you now read?
We have also characterized the legislative power to grant and regulate franchise as being subject to due process. It says here, we acknowledge the power of Congress to impose restriction on franchise. We also noted that no enactment of Congress may contravene the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Congress may very well, in its wisdom, impose additional obligation on the various franchisees and accordingly delegate to the NTC the power to ensure that the broadcast station comply with their obligations under the law. Because broadcast media enjoys lesser degree of free expression protection.
Mr. Chair, this
You're
is the Philippine Port.
sandali lang. You're talking of Philippine Port Authority in Manila. Paano ko napunta dyan sa...
No, it cites here also, Mr. Chair, because the Supreme Court decision is focusing on the power of the Congress with respect to the franchise, Mr. Chair.
Yes, but you
And
know...
the Supreme Court also
No.
what is
Yung
the franchise.
binabasa nyo ba'y bahagi ba yan o interpretasyon nyo na yan?
Can I
No. You have to answer the question.
Chair.
You know, kasi babalik ka na naman
Start,
doon sa...
Mr. Chair.
That is part of that particular
Yes.
GR that you mentioned.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Can we take a look? at your
Can I email to the
no,
honorable?
can we take a look now?
Mr. Chair?
Can I ask the COMSEC?
Most respectfully, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
maybe just ask him how to explain how that is related to the
Correct,
Philippine court.
because you're talking of broadcast.
I assume
You're
our
talking
compañero
about,
read the case.
ano naman ang connection ho ng broadcast dyan sa Philippine Ports Authority?
No, Mr. Chair, the Supreme Court explained the nature of a franchise.
Yes, so why did they particular mention about broadcast?
I was not able to read the complete details,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, because it's too long, Mr. Chair. But I can explain, Mr. Chair, that the constitutional nature of the franchise.
We have to validate yung binabasa ho nyo. Pasensya lang po, Attorney Mark.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hindi naman po tayo nagano, pero medyo tahilis ho kasi yung binabasa nyo eh. Okay, that is, we cannot see how they can include that in a decision that has nothing to do with broadcast or anything else. So maybe I would like to...
Can I email this, Mr.
Yes.
Chair? to
Yes,
the-
I would suggest, can you just send us a copy? And we're checking our records now.
Thank you, sir.
I ask, Congressman Raj, can we please proceed because we will not, I cannot accept his that explanation
Mr. Chair,
because I think it's not. I think he's reading from something else.
Mr.
So
Chair.
can you now proceed?
Yes, thank you. I will
Ah.
proceed. On the last point lang, no, it's very possible that our good Panyero is reading an obiter. Or perhaps he's reading the background to support a, you know, in our Supreme Court cases, sometimes there's second, third sources already.
Yes.
So I think for him to, regardless if that is the case, without a sufficient explanation of how that ruling would apply here, kasi sa case pa lang, Philippine ports, tapos biglang may NTC, without satisfactorily explaining to us, I don't think it would persuade anyone here in this.
Yes, and I don't think the Supreme Court rules on obiters. Is that the right term?
Yes, obiter.
They do not rule on that.
Mr. Chair, and more specifically, even if we were to take, Mr. Chair, if we were to take that quote on its face value, it's talking about due process. But never does it say anything about Congress not having the capacity under the Constitution to revoke franchise. And this, what we are doing here, my dear colleague members, is due process. Ito po yung ginagawa natin. This is due process we are doing under legislative process. Now, with that, Mr. Chair, I don't think we'll get anywhere with the Supreme Court. But there's one more thing I want to take up. Mr. Chair, there was a mention. Mr. Chair, there was a mention earlier, one of the first interpolators, and it was explained by the Council of SMNI, that they followed all of the procedural requirements of the NTC. Mr. Chair, may we ask the NTC to verify that, in fact, they have followed the deadlines by date regarding their orders?
Mr. Chair, insofar as the filing of the answers, SMNI filed the answers, but insofar as the reports that we receive in
Mr. Chair, no, sorry, just the filing of the answers and the proceedings of the administrative case, were they timely filed? Because I understand there was an initial 30-day suspension and there was a reiteration from the NTC answer. May we know if, at the very least, in the due process provision, was it timely followed?
Mr. Chair, in reply, insofar as the answer to our issuances, there was supposed to be a deadline of January 15 on the filing of the answer. They explained that they have another 5 days from the denial of the motion of the bill of particulars. So, and that's part of the review and evaluation that the NTC is reviewing right now. But they submitted it on the 19th. Mr. Chair.
So as far as we're concerned, on the original deadline, di po nasunod. But they arrogate upon themselves
the new rule. Mr. Chair, under the rules of the NTC, do we have motion for bill of particulars?
It would depend on the assessment of the NTC.
So we're not ready to
The
answer
time
that yet.
is necessary or not.
Okay. No, but I mean, Mr. Chair, do we have that provision under your rules? Pwede po ba mag-file ng bill of particulars?
There's no specific in the guidelines of the NTC. There's no specific guideline on that, Mr. Chair. But the rules of court apply suppletorily to the processes of the commission.
So they filed the motion for bill of particulars, which now extended yung kanilang motion, the time for which they could answer. And is it correct, Mr. Chair, that this is the subject of a case before the Court of Appeals? It was made the subject of a case, the Court of Appeals?
Mr. Chair, that's a different one.
Mr. Chair, among the resource persons who could properly elucidate on the case that the SMNI filed with the Court of Appeals?
I can explain that.
Perhaps the counsel. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we filed when the NTC issued a 30-day suspension against SMNI, preventive suspension, the first 30 days, we filed a petition for certiorari, prohibition mandamus, and prayer for TRO with the Court of Appeals. But the Court of Appeals denied it on the ground that we failed to file a motion for reconsideration. So it was denied not based on merits. So again, the NTC suspended again for give us indefinite suspension. There's no date how many days. So this time, we filed a motion for reconsideration and now pending with the NTC. So that is the status with respect to the NTC. But I'd like to put on record that we filed before this development, Mr. Chair, we filed a motion for bill of particulars because the order of NTC is not clarified what are our violations, but it was also denied. We also filed a motion for inhibition because they are also the complainant, so we can expect them to...
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just doon lang po, we'd like to focus.
Thank you very much, Attorney Totino.
So, Mr. Chair...
Let's be very brief.
Okay, so the Court of Appeals was indeed regarding that proceeding. There was already that filed before the CA and it was denied for failure to file the MR. Mr. Chair, the good attorney mentioned earlier that there was an MR filed.
We also filed a motion for consideration.
After the fact?
No, to the order. To the order giving the order issued by the NTC giving indefinite suspension for the operation of SMNI.
Okay, but there was no MR during the initial 30-day suspension?
No MR. We go directly to the Court of Appeals.
Okay, so yun yung issue po natin. Due process was afforded, but they skipped it. In fact, I believe the wording of the CA was that the SMNI cannot arrogate upon itself the decision of whether or not an MR is required. Is that correct, Mr. Chair? That was part of the 5-page resolution.
Mr. Chair, we did not file an MR because we believe that the case of SMNI is part of the exception because time is of the essence because as an NTC immediately suspended us without giving us an opportunity to explain.
Mr. Chair, and the CA disagreed and denied.
And the CA said that no, you need to file an MR first.
So yun nga po, na-deny po ng CA. Yun lang. So I think this is
a merit, Mr. Chair.
Not based on merit. And exactly, Mr. Chair, I think that is vital because SMNI is now harping on due process. But it seems that they are not following the procedures that are being offered, whether it's under this Congress, whether it's by the NTC. That word really struck me from the CA. They are arrogating talaga upon themselves their own interpretation of all of these rules and whatnot. So, Mr. Chair, with that, I want to go now to, kasi like I mentioned earlier, this bill was supposed to be on the legality. But I am surprised to see that nangyayari pa rin yung mga issues natin in Section 4 and 7.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, may we ask now, how does SMNI treat production of their shows? I know we touched on this very briefly. Is there a separate corporation that deals with production? Perhaps we can ask yung sa operations po nila, Mr. Chair.
Operations.
Mr. Chair, there's none. All production is done by
Ano po?
SMNI. Lahat po
Meron-
ng productions ng programa ay produce po ng SMNI.
Mr. Chair, so
Maliban-
all production is done by SMNI.
Correct. This is
So-
not a co-prod.
It is
This
not
is
co-
studio produced or yes.
So all provisions of their franchise would necessarily apply to what they do as a production company. Is that
Yes.
correct, Mr. Chair? So, Mr. Chair, how now do we differentiate between the two? Because I believe a while ago, their consultant was saying na whatever it is that we're commenting here would not apply to productions they've made because it's in YouTube. Tama ba, Mr. Chair? May we ask the consultant, Mr. Sonsa?
Jason, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair. What's the question?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you mentioned earlier, upon prodding by one of our colleagues here, regarding the production of Mr. Celis, the video that was posted in that issue. And the defense that you posited was that you have no hand on that because it is not free TV. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
My statement, if I may recall correctly, Mr. Chair, is insofar as violation of the franchise with respect to free TV, whether it's radio or television, we have not violated any transmission procedures.
Mr. Chair, so you're mentioning transfer procedure to highlight the fact that you have not violated the suspension order, correct?
Yeah.
That is the crux of your
Suspension and
statement.
the CDO, Mr.
The suspension and the CDO, you're talking about you are relying on YouTube to go around the issue of the suspension order. But the question, Mr. Chair, is that when it comes to production, is it not a shared it's not even shared. It is the responsibility of SMNI under their franchise. Because as you mentioned, there's no separate corporation for production.
Yes.
So whether or not it is aired, I understand, Mr. Chair, honestly, that tama po yung sinasabi niya. Because it is through YouTube, there is no transgression of the cease and desist order. But regarding the sections 4 and 7 on the substance of the production, it is something that has been skirted all day long, Mr. Chair. Kasi po tinatanong po natin dito, as succinctly pointed out by the Honorable Dasa, if that wasn't free to air, where would they draw the line? Because apparently, if you take it out, if the NTC suspends it, wala na po dun, they feel that, and they are still producing po, no? They're not airing it, but they are producing the content, that there's no need to draw any line. Because after all, do a crime, they'll just file a case after. I think, Mr. Chair, that is our problem here. The way by which Suara Sug goes about their business, it really shows impunity, perhaps. It's a culture of impunity, a culture of walang pakialam, anything goes. So that's why, Mr. Chair, I think, and I hope this persuades my fellow members here, that this is an obligation that we have as members of Congress. Ito na po yung public interest, common good, general welfare portion that is being referred to by the Constitution. That, again, I will cite it again, neither any franchise or right be granted except under the condition that it shall be subject to amendment, alteration, or repeal by Congress when the common good so requires. They are skirting provisions on the NTC. They are focusing only on, they have no more obligations kasi hindi na to on air. They are focusing on YouTube. But yet they still go about doing the same things. Mr. Chair, can we maybe ask the Chief of Operations again? They are aware that since Suara Sug is not a separate corporation, they are bound by sections 4 and 7 of the franchise.
Yes, Sharon.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And they also understand that under sections 4 and 7, they have the duty, self-regulated duty actually, to provide balanced programming.
Yes, po.
So how do we now reconcile that responsibility to the public of giving balanced programming, avoiding fake news, avoiding red tagging with what is being done now? Mr. Chair, may I ask, okay, one more. We mentioned during the last hearing, they mentioned that there is now an ethics committee or what do you call that? What is your grievance committee po? The question is directed to the Chief of Operations.
Yes, po. Yes, po.
Ano po yun? Or what is the committee that you have
Ethics and
formed?
Grievance Committee.
Ethics and Grievance Committee. So when it is not on free-to-air TV, does it not apply to the produce? Because I remember the other board member mentioned, member of the board mentioned that whether this is on air no or on YouTube, lahat ng ginagawa nila sa programa would be at the end of the day subject to a report, of which supposedly this Ethics and Grievance Committee would deliberate. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes, po.
And this, despite being on YouTube, should have gone through the Ethics and Grievance Committee. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
It would definitely go through that after this hearing.
No, after this hearing, Mr. Chair, may I ask my good colleague, the Honorable Manuel, ano po yung date nung video that they...
January 9, 2024 na
January
po.
9. It is now February 7. Bakit ngayon lang po? Isn't it supposed to be the whole purpose of a production report is that the moment that that was produced, it will be reviewed by your committee, subject to action. Bakit ngayon pa lang po? Just because ngayon lang nakita?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't received complaints with regards to
Mr. Chair, I think the whole point of the committee is to avoid complaints po, no? That's why you have your production team report on it right after production, before anyone has seen it, before anyone has been offended, before any crime is committed. Mr. Chair, ang problema po natin dito, most honestly, yung grievance committee seems to be a reactionary one. You might as well call it the Congressional Inquiry Response Committee. Kasi, yun ang nangyayari po, no? They only constituted the committee last hearing after the fact already of that issue on the budget of Congress. And then now, they are going to tell us that the grievance committee will act on it only after it was brought up by Representative Manuel, after the fact of the offense. So, Mr. Chair, this goes back to my point, no? Na yung the way by which they handle their business, it's very, hands off. And I think this really goes into the provision on the common good that we should respond to. The other matters, Mr. Chair, I just want to reiterate na lang po, no? Because this was already mentioned time and time again. Section 10, 11, and 12. I'd like to ask the SEC, because perhaps it does not give a full picture. Earlier, the Honorable Dasa asked you about the offenses of the Suarezug Media Corporation, and it seemed to give off the idea that it is only late filing. But is it not? During the last deliberation, we found that they filed with the SEC. What they filed there was different from what they filed with the committee. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So I would say that this is not only a late filing issue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, what I shared earlier to the commission was based on the records, but I confirm that during the previous deliberation, we made a manifestation that there was a discrepancy in the filing that were made to the SEC as well as to the Honorable Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, we're not pinpointing that answer. No, we understand your answer because on the part of the SEC, what you only see was a late filing. But taken together with the what was filed with the committee, nakita po natin there's discrepancy, which goes into the substance of those reports. I will not belabor the point, no, but we've already, as shown before by PowerPoint, the issues of the controlling interest. This was something that was verified by the SEC. They transferred interest without asking permission of Congress. Again, verified by the SEC. Even the change of the executive pastor of Kingdom of Jesus Christ from non-stock to corporation sole was very. Maybe ask again, just for everyone here. SEC, maybe ask the point made out by the Congresswoman Nograles regarding the change from executive pastor to corporation sole regarding the requirement of the two-thirds vote ba yun? There was an issue there, was there not, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that those were information that we shared that reflects the records of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to harp on that po, no? Just because for those who might be hearing about it for the first time, they might think that the transgressions were merely late submissions, but it really goes into the substance of the report, and it goes into what I'm saying, the culture of which SMNI operates. Na it's really haphazard. So I think to protect for the interest of the common good, I really seek the urgent approval of my bill. So I think there might be others who would like to ask, so I would like to relinquish the floor to the next. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much, the proponent, the Honorable Ramon Rodriguez Gutierrez of One
Mr.
Rider.
Chair, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence and the indulgence of the gentleman from One Rider, can we ask the SEC, because it was just highlighted that there were discrepancies in records. Is that within their authority to investigate if there were any sort of misrepresentation or fraud because it was just highlighted just now, and no less than the Honorable Kim was sitting next to me, and I remember she was one of the members who pointed that out, I think, in the last hearing. Could we ask the SEC?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can I provide a context on what happened in this particular matter? So what happened in this matter is that when we were
Please
asked
speak closer to your microphone. Thank you.
when we were asked to verify a particular submission, we presented to the honorable committee the records that were with the SEC. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that the same document that was filed with the honorable committee was not the same document that was filed with the SEC. So that was the discrepancy. And the reason for that is under the legislative franchise of the subject committee, they are required to file reportorial requirements with the Honorable Congress. So that was the context why the Honorable Committee discovered that there was different documents, same documents, different filing.
Okay. Well, thank you for that background, Mr. Chair. So my question is, because the commission, you're a quasi judicial type of body, the SEC. You have regulatory and investigative powers. Now that you've been put on notice of these discrepancies, aren't you duty bound to do some sort of an investigation and report at least to yourselves and then share it with the committee?
Mr. Chair, there is actually a new provision in the revised corporation code, which provides that any person who certifies in a document required to be filed with the commission to a false or misstatement or a erroneous data can be held criminally liable. So that's one of the things that the SEC has the power to look into. But since this is a criminal case, what the procedure is, the SEC will need to file a proper or file a proper endorsement before the Department of Justice.
And have you started the process, or do you see a need to start the process?
Personally, Mr. Chair, certainly there is a need, and this is a matter that is within the jurisdiction of our Enforcement and Investor Protection Department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Asa, the chair recognizes the harder working Kimbo from the 2nd District of Marikina, the Honorable Stella Luz Kimbo. Welcome, ma'am, to the committee hearing of the Franchise Committee. So, are you done, the Honorable Daza? Any other question by any other member? The Honorable Kimbo, of course, is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, kung natatandaan po natin, medyo matagal na nung huli nating hearing. Ang naging issue po natin kay Casa Elisa ay ang kanyang refusal to reveal to us yung kanyang source of information. At dahil nga doon, nagkaroon tayo ng napakaraming problema, no? At dahil din doon, ang isa sa mga nakuha po natin na documents ay yung kanilang manual. At in fairness naman, nakapag-produce naman sila ng manual. At nakita po natin doon na merong very specific guidelines kapag merong source na revealing the source may threaten or cause harm to the source. At kung pwede ko pong i-share sa inyo, ganito po ang naka-indicate sa manual. Correspondents and reporters should not hide their source of a news story unless revealing it may threaten or cause harm to the source or lead to a halt in the flow of information to the correspondent. In such cases, the source should be revealed to the highest editorial authority. who should decide whether or not to broadcast the story and take responsibility for airing it. When airing it, it is sufficient to say SSMC, SMNI was informed that, etc., etc. So, ang tanong po natin is, ginawa po ba ito ni Caselis? So, ang unang tanong, at that point in time, sino po yung highest editorial authority? Anong petsa po? Kailan po niya sinabihan itong highest editorial authority? Ano po ang ginawa ni highest editorial authority doon sa information na yan? Ano po ang naging advice ni highest editorial authority kay Caselis?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yung binasa po ni Congresswoman is for correspondents and reporters. Please take note po na si Ka Eric is not a correspondent nor a reporter. He's a commentator of program po. So yung pong kanyang ginawa sa live broadcast, nevertheless, ay dumaan po siya ng investigation and like we said earlier, nagkaroon po siya ng 10-day suspension from
Okay, ano yung kaibahan ng correspondence and a commentator?
At Mr. Chair, ibig sabihin po nun just because iba ang tawag sa akin, hindi ako correspondent, hindi ako news anchor, ibig sabihin nun, mas mababa ang standards na ma-apply sa akin. Yun bang ibig sabihin nun? Diba? So paki-explain po, una, ano po ang pagkakaiba? Anong tawag sa kanya ulit?
Commentators
Commentator.
po sila.
Anong pagkakaiba ng commentator sa correspondent or news anchor? That's the first question. Pangalawa, ano ngayon ang standards applicable to commentator? Wala po akong nakitang separate standards para sa commentator. In a situation katulad nito, at the fact na naisulat dito ang gagawin kapag may ganitong sitwasyon, ibig sabihin nun, anticipated ninyo na nangyayari ito all the time. Kaya nga maganda, di ba Mr. Chair, na nakalinaw anong gagawin kasi anticipated. Ibig sabihin nun, anticipated din na mangyayari ito sa mga, anong tawag sa kanila? Commentator. So sa unang tanong po, pagkakaiba ng commentator sa correspondent?
Mr. Chair. Ang unang tanong po, ang mga commentators po, ang mga news correspondents at mga news writers, sila po ay news writers o news reporters po ang nakasulat, ay nagre-report, dumadaan po sa mga editors, lahat ng kanilang isinusulat bago po ito lumabas sa TV, whereas ang mga commentators po, ang kanilang mga topics ang aming nakikita kung ano ang kanilang pag-uusapan, ngunit ang nangyayari po ng kanilang sinasabi sa live broadcast ay hindi po namin lahat masasala. At kaya po nangyari na after po ng live ay dumaan po ng proseso ng investigasyon si Ka Eric, subalit ito po ay na preempt na rin po ng investigation dito sa Kongreso, but nevertheless, ito po ay nagpatuloy at siya po ay dumaan sa 10-day suspension. Hindi po ibig sabihin na hindi po siya dumaan sa proseso ng pagdidisiplina.
Sa makatuwid, kung ikaw ay commentator, hindi ka napapaloob sa kahit na anong authority. Kahit na ano, pwede mong sabihin, Mr. Chair. Ganun ang intindi ko po sa sinasabi ninyo. Kasi kapag correspondent ka or news anchor, ikaw ay mayroong nire-reportan na editorial authority at mayroong rules. Kapag commentator ka, there's no such thing. So ang ibig sabihin nun, pag malasin ka at nag-intervene ang Kongreso, saka ka lang paparusahan. So, can you imagine, Mr. Chair? Ang hirap naman, di ba? Napupunta sa atin ang burden ng ganitong sitwasyon. Di ba? Na hindi naman yata pwede yan, di ba? So, tama ba na walang standards para sa commentator?
Mr. Chair, can I answer the Honorable Kimbo? Yes. Mr. Chairman, ang nire-refer po kasi doon sa binasa nyo kanina, doon po sa staff ng News and Public Affairs Department, no? Reporters, correspondents. With respect to anchors or talents, sila po ay subject pa rin sa provisions which are provided in their separate contracts. Yung pagdisiplina, halimbawa may violation sila sa franchise. Siyempre, kinakailangan dumaan sila sa pagdisiplina. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng investigasyon. Hindi nangangahulugan na hindi po sila subject to disciplinary action, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sonsa, with pagay ko, hindi man natin pwedeng hingin lahat ng mga kontrata ng lahat ng mga talents ninyo. Pero pagay ko, I think they're all airing under one program, under one network. So I'm pretty sure that everybody toes the line with one set of rules. Na yun yung hindi ko maintindihan by all of a sudden. Di pag ganun pala, pag meron kang titirahin, tawagin mo lang commentator para iwas pusoy na lang ang SMNI or any network for that nature. Hindi ho pwede. You know, you cannot hide under that like yung mga disclaimer. Parang sasabi na pag ang isang network, kunyari, Channel 7, may disclaimer kami dyan kaya hindi pwedeng habulin MTRCB ang sasabihin ito. Hindi naman ho pwede yun. Diba? I mean, you know, you cannot hide under this. And somehow, we cannot also, it's hard to comprehend, yung siya sabi ni Congresswoman Kimbo na how can you have a different set of rules sa commentator at saka sa news reporters? Parang ang baba naman ang tingin natin sa mga commentator. Pag ganyan ho ang gawin ho niya. Kasi ho, ang gagawin nyo, libre zone ang gagawin nila. Gawin nyo na kung anong gusto nyo gawin dahil hindi naman kayo covered ng manual. Ba't pa kayo nagpakita ng manual? Ang pinag-uusapan si Ka Eric. Tapos nagbigay kayo ng manual na ito yung proseso namin. Tapos now you tell us, it does not refer to Ka Eric. Pwede pa yun? Diba, yun yung basihan ng usapan yung kaya nga humingi ho ng manual. Mabuti ho maging klaro naman po tayo.
Opo. Klaro naman po.
Opo.
Hindi po sanay kayo sa kalakaran sa industriya. Mas mabigat ho ang pagdisiplina sa talent and anchor kaysa doon sa mga regular correspondent, reporters, writers. Doon ho sa mga nagtrabaho sa industriya, naintindihan po nila yun. Kasi ang talent at immediately pwedeng tanggalin niyo sila sa trabaho sa kontrata nila eh. Oh. Hindi katulad sa dadahan ho talaga sa proseso kasi hindi kaya nga po, kaya ako tinutuwid.
Meron po kayong rules pagdating po sa reporter, pero pag correspondents, pero pagdating sa commentators, wala. Kasi lang kakasabi lang ho kanina ng operations, which tapos binigyan nyo ng 10-day suspension. Ba't nyo binigyan ng 10-day suspension? Wala naman pala siyang hindi pala siya covered dun sa manual nyo. I mean, it does not make sense. And that's what Congressman Daso was saying earlier. Na, the more you have to be very careful kasi you're now kind of contradicting each other. No? So, mag-ingat lang po tayo dun sa mga kasi syempre, we would like to discuss this and we are trying to understand how you operate. No? And the Honorable Kimbo, who has attended all the hearings of this committee, has always been fair in her assessment and has always been objective in her questions. So the Honorable Kimbo, you still have the floor, if you still have any.
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, gusto ko pa sana magtanong dito tungkol sa kanilang Code of Ethics. Pero sa totoo lang po, walang gana na po, di ba? Kasi magpapalusot lang naman po, di ba? Kung ganito yung rule, ang sasabihin lang naman, papalitan lang naman ng tawag dun sa imbis na commentator, imbis na reporter or news anchor na tawaging commentator. Hindi naman pala Code of Ethics ito kung hindi cheat code. Wag na lang po. Thank you na lang po. I will just yield to the next. Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Salamat po.
Stella Kimbo. The Honorable Tina Panchos, recognized from Bulacan.
Mr. Chair, makikita po natin na in any company, there's always a chain of command. So pag nag-utos ka, dire-diretso yun, responsible ka to whatever action ng tao mo. Pero nakikita po natin dito na parang hindi po nasusunod yung chain of command natin eh. So siguro po one of the suggestions lang po natin na siguro next time when we grant o give franchise to any company, siguro yung disclaimer tanggalin na po natin. Kasi pagdating po sa pagpapalabas, pag pumapasok ka advertisement, kumikita, everybody is happy. Pero pag nakasira ka na ng image ng tao, para bang, oops, teka, kayo lang yan. May disclaimer kami. So siguro next time, Mr. Chair, review natin na tanggalin na po yun.
Opo.
Thank you po,
Well,
Mr. Chair.
I know sa mga major networks, so hindi ko talaga papayagan niya. Mas ganun tawag sa'yo. Whether reporter ka, field reporter, news anchor, correspondent, hindi ho pa pwede lahat yan. Yung they follow one rule. And the rule of truth. So, I thank you very much, Honorable Tina Pancho. If there's no other member that would like to speak, okay. Anyway, your attendance is already in the floor, no?
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
the Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sinasabi kanina, no, yung nasuspend lang ay yung free air. Pero the same content pa rin, yung ini-air nila, sabi to follow lang, no, yung ating kasama si Kong Gutierrez. The same content, walang pagbabago. Yung ginagawa noong sa free air na ginagawa nung Celis at saka nung Badoy, at saka sa online, at saka doon sa free air, Mr. Chair. Kaya parang misrepresent nila, no? Yung by continuing these programs through SOCMED, okay lang, parang sinasabi ni Kong Pancho, basta kumikita, okay lang, sige lang, tuloy-tuloy lang kayo kung ano yung sinasabi. Basta tanggap yan ng mga trolls, tanggap yan ng mga nagbabayad sa atin. So parang ganun eh. Wala ba talaga, Mr. Chair, na parang control tayo? Halimbawa, meron ba tayong magagawa halimbawa sa NTC? Kasi ang NTC po, Mr. Chair, alam ko nag-cancel po kayo or nag-suspend po kayo ng website. Tama? Na mga alternative media. Alam ko may ganun po kayong ganun po kayong ginawa. So, halimbawa sa ganito po, wala po ba kayong control doon sa website halimbawa nitong SMNI na the same pa rin naman po yung content na katulad ng nirereklamo nating red tagging, disinformation, maligning, the reputation ng mga individual. So, ano po ba yung magagawa doon ng NTC, Mr. Chair? Kahit na suspended na yung free airs, kahit na suspended na parang wala silang pakialam. Kahit na suspended kami anyway, andyan na social media, lahat ng mga platform na pwede naming pagpuntahan para magsalita. Na sila dapat ay may control doon sa kanilang sinasabi nila yung mga talents nila na binabayaran nila. So, ngayon sasabihin nila wala silang So, meron po ba, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Insofar as that yung concern po na yun, we had a preliminary discussion with the MTRCB and we were advised that yung suspension order po nila includes not only the free to air but on other platforms. So if that is the case, Your Honor, should the MTRCB decide to endorse that suspension order to the NTC for suspension on other platforms, perhaps the NTC can consider that, Mr. Chair.
So, ano pong sagot doon ng MTC? Kasi
MTRCB.
MTRCB kasi parang pinapasa ng
MTRCB.
yung MTRCB. By the way, ito po bang DZAR 1026 saka yung radio nila? Suspended din po ba 'yon, NTC?
Yes, Your Honor. Kasama po.
Okay. So, MTRCB na lang, Mr. Chair.
Yes po, if I may, if the MTRCB decided to suspend or cancel a program in all kinds of media platforms, and said decision is final and executory, we can endorse it to the NTC in order for them to assist us in implementation of said decision.
So, minomonitor nyo po ba yung iba pang mga platforms? Halimbawa, kasi ito, meron na mga po siyang suspension dahil nga sa mga disinformation, red tagging, at saka yung topic natin ngayon.
Yes po.
Doon sa bakit kailangan ba or hindi i-revoke yung kanilang franchise. Pero ano po yung ginagawa? Do we need to have yung complaint pa or yung mandate ninyo ay continuing yung pagmo-monitor?
Upon implementation po, kapag may final and executory decision na po kami, our monitoring and inspection unit po, they make sure po, they monitor if nag-air pa din po yung movie or TV program na yan. But honestly po, currently we are amending our charter to include online on-demand online applications as well as streaming applications po, social and other social media platforms to be under our jurisdiction.
Okay. So, sige, yun lang Mr. Chair, makakaasa tayo, no? Dado sa monitoring ng other platform based doon sa amendment ng inyong sa mandates. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Tina Pancho, the Honorable, yes.
Mr. Chair, if you still remember Rendon Labrador, yung sa Facebook, marami siyang inawit kinagalit eh. Inalis po siya ng Facebook eh. Maybe we can ask Facebook or TikTok, any resource person from TikTok and Facebook, na ma-invite po natin na kung ano yung guidelines po
Okay.
nila.
Pag-usapan po natin sa ibang.
Remember, Rendon Labrador, inaway si Vice Ganda and other celebrities, kinatche eh.
Okay.
May disciplinary action.
Sige, pag-usapan natin. Maybe we can look at legislation for that. Yes, the Honorable Kimbo.
Yes,
again,
Habol, question.
before I go to the last.
Yes,
Yes.
to the NTC. May
NTC.
may we know how many orders you have issued so far to the SMNI with respect to this issue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Honor, insofar as this issue is concerned, the NTC has issued 2 orders relative to this, and the others are resolutions of their motions. So, ito na po yung mga na-issue ng NTC relative to,
So how many issuances?
I think,
total?
2 orders and 2 resolutions. So, all in all, 4.
And the resolutions are, can you tell us what the resolutions are about?
The resolution on the motion to inhibit, and also the resolution on the motion for the bill of particulars, Your Honor. Yun po.
And may we request copies of these orders, Mr. Chair?
Very much, the Honorable
Thank you.
Kimbo. Just to inform you, early on, that was already a motion that all documents be given and make sure that the Honorable Kimbo's office is furnished. All issuances, including the reply of SMNI. Thank you. So, if there are no other items, the Honorable Pimentel, the Vice Chair, would like to again manifest.
Mr. Chair, before we adjourn, I would like to remind Attorney Tolentino to please advise your principal, Pastor Kiboloy, to attend the next hearing because this committee has already previously issued a subpoena. Failure on his part to appear during the next hearing, this committee might be constrained to issue a contempt order to him. So paki-advise na lang po para hindi na tayo dumating doon. Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Duly seconded. The chair in objection. This committee hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you. Hearing mo.